Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our international talk show where we talk to authors from all over the world. And we usually talk to our authors over Zoom, but this time we talked to an author coming into our studio live. Welcome, Kristen Hale.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
And you must be from the Central Valley of California?
Yes, sir. Visalia.
Visalia, because that's where we broadcast from. Now, your book, the title is intriguing and amazing at the same time, From Mormon to God. Tell us a little bit of your story.
So I was raised Mormon, born in the covenant is what they call it, actually. My dad was bishop for 5 years, so we were very heavy in the Mormon doctrine. We were raised in it. It's all I knew, actually.
Let me ask you this. Were your parents born into the Mormon church, or did they?
They were also, born into the Mormon church. My father's parents were actually converts, but when he was born also into the Mormon church.
So it's multi-generational. That's all you knew?
It's all I ever knew,
Right. Tell us more of the story.
I thought we were 75% of the population, because that's what they teach you. So we were raised in rules, hierarchy, woman submission. Women are not allowed to pray over men, with the anointed oil or anything like that. We're not allowed to hear from God. Only the men are. It's very. I didn't question it though. So it's just grow up in this nice little bubble, and it's safe feeling. And
everybody around you was living that way, from your parents
everybody.
To your friends, people you
cousins. Yep, 45 cousins on one side of the family.
Now this is in Utah?
This is in Utah. I was raised in Idaho, and my aunt's family was in Utah. And so we were traveling there all the time, and eventually I married my husband, who lived in Utah. So
you still have this husband?
Yes.
Same husband?
Yes, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now something happened to wake you up to other possibilities.
Yes, sir.
Tell us that story.
So I gave birth to my third child, and 2 weeks later I woke up paralyzed in my bed. I was unable to speak or move. And I remember just rolling off. I was able to roll off of my bed, and I thumped on the ground and woke my husband up, and he didn't know what was going on either. He's a nurse at the time, and he was just doing his best to help me. Basically, what had happened, which later I was actually correctly diagnosed 2 months later. So this 2 months of just going doctor to doctor, specialist to specialist, ER to ER, and they didn't know what was going on until I was diagnosed with what's called POTS, and that's a heart disease and brain disease. It's called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
I've heard of it. I've never heard much about it, but I've heard the term.
Some people gradually get this disease. Mine was overnight. Instantly.
Did they think it was a stroke or something like that?
They did. So they thought I had a heart attack. They thought I had a stroke. I had an echo. They saw my leaky heart valves, and they just kept sending me home saying, take it easy, take it easy. And I couldn't speak or move. How do I take it easy? Right. This is very difficult.
And could you argue with them?
No, I
don't even argue.
I couldn't speak. So I remember writing. I started, I had the use of my thumbs, so I began using my note section in my iPhone to write this book. And that's where this book came from.
Amazing.
5 years ago.
You typed most of it or all of it on your iPhone?
Not all of it, because after 6.5 months of therapy, I was able to walk again with like a walker. And so we got further and we got further. You want to hear the whole story now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to just lay it out there because it's in the book. But
you were still Mormon at this time?
I was still Mormon.
When this happened
Had
to you?
known nothing. Yeah. However, in the hospital bed, there was a night where it was dark. My husband took my 2-week-old baby home.
2-week-old baby?
2-week-old baby, to give her some rest, to give him some rest, and I didn't have the mobility to push the nurse button. I'm going to be transparent. I had to go to the restroom. I needed all of these things, but I could not move. So I'm in this bed. They didn't have enough room in the cardiac unit, so I'm on the senior oncology unit. People are going code blue all around me. I'm scared. Seniors.
Old people.
People are dying all around me.
I can say it because I'm a senior now.
I'm very scared. And it was in that moment that I realized my faith from what I had at that time and that moment was not going to give me peace. It was not going to.
Okay, let's back up. You had a testimony?
I had a testimony.
A
Yeah.
Mormon testimony?
Mormon testimony, yes.
And were you at the level where you got to go in the temple and everything?
Yes.
How old
yes.
does that happen?
So when you're as young as 14, you can do baptisms for the dead, as long as you're worthy and you do the interview questions with your bishop. A lengthy interview, but then you get this little recommend, and you're able to go to whatever temple.
Wow.
So that starts as little as 14, and then as you progress, when you want to get married, you're able to take out what's called endowments, which is just the book of Genesis, but they hide it and make it kind of like, you want to be here. This is where you want to be, in the $1 million temple. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that type of thinking was very dangerous psychologically, and I did not know that until I was in this hospital bed.
Yeah. And you didn't doubt or question, you had no faith
No.
crisis, growing up?
My family would attest I had no qualms about Mormonism.
Okay, so you're in the hospital.
I'm in the hospital.
You can't move. You can't even call the nurse.
Yeah. It's dark. I'm scared. I'm fearful. And in that time, I cried out to God. I said, God, if you are here, if you hear me, please let me live tomorrow. I was in so much pain.
You thought you were going to die.
I was going to die. I said goodbyes. I literally said goodbyes to my husband, my dad, all of these things. And I said, let me live tomorrow, and I'll serve you every day the rest of my life. Next morning, well, actually, the night got worse. I'm not going to lie, it got worse. I was sweating profusely, and I was in a lot of pain. And a nurse came in and poked me, and I fell asleep. I woke up the next day, and I woke up to somebody actually taking my blood. And I said, be careful, I'm a pianist. And that's when my voice came out. And I was like, oh my goodness. Now, mind you, my left eye was twitched. I wasn't perfect, but it was something.
Oh,
It was
instantly you
something.
felt different?
I felt different that morning. And a nurse came in and she said, hey, I went against protocol last night. I've never seen blood pressure that high in 20 years that I've worked here. So I gave you a steroid to lower your blood pressure. And I knew God was working here. And in that moment, I did feel different. I was able to speak to her differently. I knew things about her past. I didn't know what was going on. I just was speaking. That's it. And that led me to Visalia, California, away from family, away from Mormonism, the Utah land. And I just kept hearing the voice that was healing. And it was actually giving me clarity and peace. So I was just searching for peace.
Right.
Was it hard to leave my family? Yes. But I wanted healing.
Well, so there's a moment that you decided you're no longer Mormon?
Not until I got to Visalia. So my husband and I came here. It was a little difficult. We did sell a car, got a trailer. We were homeless when we first came here, but we were just wanting to.
For our
get here.
international viewers, she went from Idaho to the Central Valley, Visalia. It's kind of near Fresno.
Well, Utah, yes.
Utah,
Yes.
near Fresno, California. Visalia, California. Did your husband get a job there? Or how did?
Yes, he quit his job, found a job in Madeira, and actually on the way here, that fell through. So we were literally just going off of faith, and the Lord began speaking to my husband too. He wasn't completely in the dark. The Lord would reveal some things to me, and then would reveal it to him, and so it was very, I would just say, supernatural. Never had that experience before.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Most people don't
Yeah.
have a direct conversation with God.
Yeah.
Now, what made you leave Utah or Idaho?
So the Lord told us, leave your houses, leave your lands, and at first we did not listen. So I will tell a story of an experience. We went to Temple Square because we realized that Mormonism, as we had been taught it, was a lie. It was false. It was plagiarized from the Bible. It was taken from the direct word of God and plagiarized under different names and different rules. Now there's different rules, and now there's different ordinances. But Jesus tore the veil. Why is there a veil? So many things. So we tried to meet with the prophet of the Mormon church.
Wow.
And I'm in a walker. I'm barely walking. And we were escorted down the steps and by security. And that's when we're like, okay, we're going to listen to the voice of God, and we're going to go. We're going to go off of faith.
You mean you got kicked out?
Yeah.
They
we
kicked you
did.
out of the
Yes,
temple?
sir. Yes, sir.
Amazing.
Yeah, but we did. That's when we're like, okay. I did call every member of my family. I just said, hey, Jesus finished it. There's nothing left to do. He said it is finished on the cross.
It is finished.
And I was just told I was crazy, or I was high on pills, or get off our family chat. It was very it was hard in that sense, but the voice of God was so pure and loving that it was like, okay, I have this other way, I'm going to follow this way. And that's what led us to Visalia. And we were homeless for 2 weeks trying to find out where we're going to live. And I found this house on Zillow that was a rental home. And in Visalia, it was next to a non-denominational Christian church. However, I did not know that was even a church, because in my mind, a church only looks like the Mormon church. So we did go to the Mormon church one time, and I did not feel that love. And I was seeking it. I was like, where is it? It's not here.
You thought you'd be going home, so to speak.
Yes, it
was
wasn't there. So a week later, our transmission goes out in our car. And my husband, the priesthood holder that he was like, we're going to church on foot. And so he gets the kids in a wagon and he starts walking. Now I have POTS. Part of POTS is to, you faint. It's a heart disease. So you go tachycardic right on the spot. This fight or flight stimuli happens and there's no warning and you could faint. So midway, I was like, I can't go. So I turned around. I said, you go to church. I'm going home. I'm about to faint. And as I turned the corner, I saw this Restoration Ministries church. And I was like, you know what? We should be able to worship anywhere. I saw my husband turn the corner.
You were on your way to the Mormon church.
We were on the way to the Mormon church.
Okay.
I turned around, saw this church, and said, you know what? We're already dressed. This is close to our house.
Okay.
Let's walk in. And I never walked out, Mike. And I was healed there a year and a half later.
You're healed right there.
Healed right there.
Can you tell us anything about that?
Yes. We had a revival service, and service actually was over. And I just felt this pull to the altar to just give God everything. I was actually very grateful, which is interesting because I had been through so much pain. You would think that I would go there just like crying and like, this is the worst, but I didn't. I was there and I was grateful. I had this grateful spirit. And then all of a sudden my body started convulsing. Not going to lie, I'm going to be very transparent. There were many witnesses around me. It was convulsing. I could not stop it. And it wasn't until our bishop entered back in the church, because service was over. But he was called and he came back in and he said, be still, to my body. And my body just went right on the ground. He lifted me up and he called my husband over and he just simply prayed for my legs. I didn't hear the words, but I felt circulation in my calf muscles again, and it had been 2.5 years.
Wow.
And the next morning I was healed. I was on a bike, and it's been 3 years since.
Wow. Amazing. Now, what did the doctors say?
The doctors are all in Utah. Dr. Cortez was the greatest POTS doctor. She's a specialist in Utah, so I actually haven't gotten a hold of her yet. However, the only doctor that's seen the blood work from then to now is this random doctor in Visalia at Family Healthcare Network. And he was like trying to figure out the difference between my blood work now and my blood work then. And he couldn't stop staring at the screen. I couldn't stop staring at the screen, but I knew it was Jesus. Not everybody believes, but everybody's invited to believe.
Everybody's invited to believe.
Yes.
Sorry, I could talk to you all day about this. I want
Yes,
to talk
sir.
about the
Okay.
book.
Yes.
Who's this book for? Who's it written for?
I thought my target audience was for Mormons when I first wrote this, because I know how dangerous the religion can be when there's so many lies around you. But what I've noticed and who has reached out is mostly ex-Mormons. Because when you feel that spirit of betrayal, you don't want to go back to the name of Jesus. You don't want to go back to God. You don't want to open the Bible. No way.
Right.
I was just lied about my whole life. And what I've noticed is that there's a different Jesus, and he's the biblical Jesus.
Right.
And he's the one who paid for all of your sins, not just before you were 8, or there's not all these strings attached.
Right.
And
Like in the Mormon
church.
Does your book point out the contradictions?
I will tell you the truth, the second book that's going to come out after this is going to point out a lot of scriptural contradictions. This one is more my personal experiences and testimony.
Is it kind of what do you call autobiographical?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. And how about people who are struggling with faith or have not found any faith. Will this book help them?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It will help them. I've had people reach out. You know, when you write a book, you don't know what the response is going to be, and I've heard nothing but thank you.
Right. Was
So,
it therapeutic?
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
cathartic?
Very
Like
therapeutic. Very just, you know, Jesus. If Jesus is life, and this book is speaking about life and hope and rejoicing in hope, because that's all anybody's really looking for, right? They're looking
Yeah.
for peace, they're looking for hope.
Right.
And Jesus says that he's the way, the truth, the life. Why would we look anywhere else for that peace?
Now, I like to give books away as gifts. Who would I give this to? A Mormon or just somebody?
You know, anybody who would
anybody's-
reach out. Yeah, I mean, I'd say a Mormon would be a little standoffish because they've been taught everything against Mormonism is called anti-Mormon literature.
Yeah,
But hey, if they'll take it,
they'll take it, yeah.
you know, I would say I would encourage you.
I've had many Mormons give me a book, so.
Yeah, don't read that one.
Kristen, we are running out of time. Are we
Okay.
past time? We're past time.
We're
But
past
any last
time.
thoughts, anything on our viewers, Chanel?
No, I would like to invite anybody who is brokenhearted or angry or bitter or have any regret, just to look to Jesus of the Bible, because he really has this healing that's not from this world. So,
Healed you.
yes, sir.
Healed you.
Yes.
Kristen Hale is our author. From Mormon to God is the book, but it's an easy website to find because it's from mormontogod.com. Thank you for coming. I hope you'll come back
Yes,
again and
thank you
again.
for having me, Mike.
Fascinating author, alive, came all the way down to our studio. And for our viewers, don't go anywhere because we're going to be back with another author right after this.